We are live.
Good evening, good evening. What's up, good people? It's your boy Leroy McKenzie Jr. And y'all know it's the second Wednesday of the month. So y'all know it's Black Professional Men's General Body Meeting, and we want to welcome everyone to the meeting this evening. For those that may be watching the live stream through our group page, those that are here actually in the room that we have this evening. We want to welcome everyone, and we want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to come join us with Black Professional Men, because we take what we do very seriously. And before I talk a little bit about who we are as Black Professional Men, y'all know how we start off. We start off with just a quick word of prayer to lead us and guide us into the evening. So we want to do that really quickly. So we want to, if we could bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, it's once again we come before you just to say thank you. We come to say thank you for allowing us as Black men to be able to come together and to be able to talk about ensuring the future of the African American male. That is our mission, that is our message, that is our movement, that is our motivation in what we do. So we appreciate the Black men who have joined us this evening. We appreciate the speakers that have come and are going to fill us and give us some knowledge and some information and resources, that tools that we can use to equip us to be able to be more impactful as men, and then pour into that next generation that is coming behind us to be men and groom them to be men. So we thank you, we give honor and praise. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So welcome, gentlemen. We usually start off by just people and those listeners that may be tuning in, just some background information on who we are as Black Professional Men, also known as BPM, and what BPM is, or who we are. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Baltimore, Maryland. We were established in 1991. So this is the 30th and a 30-year anniversary of BPM. There's some information. We are members that serve as mentors and as role models for young African American men, primarily in and around the Baltimore metro region. Members are also active in other mentoring programs, conduct speaking engagements across the state, and serve on nonprofit boards aimed at helping develop the African American community. We attempt to instill in a sense of pride in our mentees to be strong African American men. We work to make positive changes in their lives, both in school and in the community, in an effort to prepare them to take advantage of life's opportunities. And we also, too, as BPM, we also pour in to the adult African American males. And we do that through their personal life activities that we have, and then also through our professional life activities, because we have men that are entrepreneurs, but also career builders and the like that are part of the organization. So we come together on a monthly basis in this area where we can have discussions and talk that we deal with as African American men, and issues that deal with us directly. And tonight is no different. And the overall topic and theme for tonight is getting your affairs in order. And this is a topic that is much needed. It's a conversation that is needed, because I'm going to throw some statistics out there, as well as I'm sure our speakers are going to be talking about some things too when it comes to us getting our affairs in order. So we want to get this evening started, and we're going to start off with our partnership spotlight. And I'm gonna let him introduce himself. And we've been talking a little bit kind of behind the scenes, but for those that may not be familiar with him, you all are in for a treat. You all are in for a phenomenal individual that is really focused on professional businesses, having their affairs in order when it comes to being protected. And it's let him introduce us. And then I'm gonna then he can go right into talking about what he's going to be covering this evening. And that's none other than Mr. Johnny Jones himself from Legal Shield. And I'll let him take the stage and grab the mic. Mr. Jones, how are you this evening? You're muted.
I guess I should unmute myself first, right? I'm on so much technology. I'm so used to it automatically doing things. As he said, my name is Johnny Jones. I appreciate the warm welcome. And I've been with Legal Shield for 13 years. And I love everything that I do because I love being able to help people make decisions and understand the resources that are out there. And in my notes, I have 3 things I want to cover and talk about today. The first one is about business. So I looked at Forbes right before I jumped on here, and they say the average startup lasts 3 to 5 years. And the reason why most startups don't make it is because they don't rely on resources. You're good at what you do, you know your business, but you don't understand all of the pieces that go with that. And so one of the things that I'm proud of my company does is we offer resources for people that own a business, and we've made it affordable. And because of what we have, a shared economy process, we have 4.4 million customers that actually use our services for different things. And we're able to lower the cost that a business owner would have to use for an attorney. So instead of paying at $200, $300, $400 an hour, you're paying less than $200 for the month for the same level of service. And when I sit down and I'm talking to a business owner and I walk through everything they need to do, what I find out is that most of them are not prepared for business from beyond the, I know how to do X. I'm an electrician, I'm a plumber, I know how to do what I do, but I don't know all of the things that are in place that I need to understand. And one of the best resources, there's 2 people you should know as a business owner, a tax person and an attorney. And in the last 2 years, due to COVID situation, everything has become more legal. If you've noticed, they come up with governances, they say you have mandates, you have to be vaccinated and you have to do this, you have to do that. But what is legal? And that's the question that never makes the news so much, but it's what you need to understand. What legally can people make you do and not do? And you're the only one that practices law as an attorney. So you want to have a resource that you can call and actually have an understanding of how everything works. I've seen businesses being taken down because of a lawsuit, because they didn't have everything in order and then they got sued and it just took them right out of the game. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about is just making sure that you have access to an attorney. Our firm gives you the ability to have over 7,000 attorneys. So no matter what state you're dealing business in, you have the ability to work with an attorney that can help you navigate through anything and everything. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about. The second thing I wanted to talk about is probably bigger than that to me personally, because it's whether you have a business or not, you need to have an estate plan in order. See, this is a big deal. Do you know that 7 out of 10 people in our country don't have a will or any kind of estate planning? 9 out of 10 minorities don't have any kind of estate planning, but 10 out of 10 of us are going to need one. And in the last 2 years, we found out how critical it was. And so there are 4 major parts to a will that you need to understand. You need to understand the standard will. That's the document that determines what happens to your assets when you pass away. That's what most people are used to. But there's also a living will. That's the document that determines how you're treated in the hospital. If you go in for any kind of treatment and you can't speak for yourself, it tells the doctor, the hospital, and your family how you want to be treated. There's also a medical power of attorney that gives somebody the legal right to make medical decisions. That is probably one of the most key documents that we have going. And if you have a child that's 18 or over, they need a medical power of attorney for them as well, or you as the parent no longer have the right to make medical decisions because of HIPAA laws and all different things. Hospitals are no longer automatically giving you the right to make decisions for your children if they're 18 or over. And there's the financial power of attorney. And that's the document that allows somebody to legally make financial decisions on your behalf. Now, my mom and me were just talking about this today. You know, I have a copy of my mom's living will and her medical power of attorney on me at all times, no matter, even when I travel, because if anything ever happens to her and she goes to the hospital, I want to make sure that I actually have the legal right to have a decision in whatever care she gets. If I can't be at the hospital, I'm going to ask them what's their fax number, but I have that with them. My best friend has mine with her. So that way, if anything ever happens to me, somebody already can step up and take advantage of that. Most of us don't have that in place, but most of us really need to have it in place because emergencies are not something that are scheduled. You don't get a call and say, I'm an emergency, let me put it on your calendar. It just happens. And when life happens, you got to have things in place for that. And so, I really wanted to spend a couple of minutes just talking about how important the will is. As a business owner, if you own a business and you start a business, what's going to happen if you get sick? What's going to happen if you pass away? Who's going to step into that? You spend all that time, that energy, that money, that effort to put that business together. Who's going to be able to step in for that? I've seen a lot of times a spouse who knows nothing about the business, that has no business experience, all of a sudden being thrust into a role because nothing was thought out. So you want to make sure you have your estate plan in order, and you want to also make sure you ask for the succession plan. That means that I don't plan to be at this business for the rest of my life, and here's my plan to walk away. An attorney can help you to draft that, to put it in place so that your business actually can be passed to whoever it needs to be passed to, or you can walk away from it and you're not stuck at that. There are some people that create a business that get stuck there because they don't have a plan to get rid of it. They don't have a plan to walk away from it. And so you need to do that. My people, my culture, we have to actually become more educated in all the resources that are out there for us. I'm a big proponent of that because I just believe that if we just understood a little bit more about how everything works, we can have greater results. And so, whenever I get a chance to go to an event where I get to talk about these two subjects, I get very passionate about it. It's very close to me because I understand. I'm watching people every day. I sit down with business owners every week and I see what they have and what they don't have. I see where they're struggling and I know how I can help them. But sometimes we don't want to listen. I was talking to my mom. We have a culture that's different than other people. And our culture tends to be more independent. We tend to think that we're supposed to do things on our own and figure it out when other cultures don't do that. We have to become more like other cultures and start using all the resources so we can actually become the great people that we were put here to be. I strongly believe that we're here to be great. We just got to understand how to get there. And there's a roadmap for all of us, and it's called resources. And when we know the resources that are around us, we can actually use those resources to become what we're supposed to become. Now, I could probably talk all night about all of these subjects, but I know they only gave me a little bit of time because I know there's other speakers that are coming up. But I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk today. And now you're muted. You just did what I did.
Sure, I sure did. Gave some really great statistics and information, but I looked up something too, and I want you to kind of speak to this when it comes to businesses. And it says 44% of small businesses have never had insurance. That there are almost 30 million small businesses in the US, which account for 99.7% of all businesses. Now, why do you think that business owners, entrepreneurs are not vested in having business insurance? And can you talk a little, I want you to talk a little bit about really quickly on the types of products that you have on the business side of leadership.
What I understand why businesses don't have insurance is they've never sat down to actually talk to a mentor or resource about what they need. And so they know if I'm going to be, say, a plumber, I understand I need parts to be a plumber. I understand I got to have a place, a truck, a vehicle. But then beyond that, I don't know the type of coverages that are available. And because I don't know, and I've never sat down with somebody and figured it out, then I don't know I'm supposed to do it. Now, I personally, my company personally doesn't do insurance, but I have a lot of resources that do insurance. And because it's such an important factor, if I sit down with a business owner and they tell me they don't have insurance or they don't have all types of insurance, I want to refer them to somebody that can actually help them, because you need insurance for if somebody slips and falls at your place of business. You need insurance in case something doesn't go right. There's insurance in case you have a disaster. See, a disaster is never promise. Again, they don't get on your calendar to tell you when it's coming, and a disaster can take you down. Do you have insurance to actually be able to rebuild everything and put everything in place? And that's why the insurance is so powerful. And plus, if you don't have insurance, the cost when something happens is much higher. Before my career in legal shit, I used to do disaster work. If I rolled up to your business, you're already knowing you're spending probably $20,000 just for me rolling up that day. That's not even included anything else. And so, it's very expensive. We don't have insurance. Insurance allows you to lower the cost to do things because collectively multiple people are in there. So like the health insurance, life insurance, business insurance, the reason why it's much lower when something happens is because they have 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people that are paying into this. Everybody doesn't need it right away. And because everybody don't have the need right away, then it's allowing people to get access to what they need. So insurance is critical in a business because you're preparing for things in case something happens. And just like health insurance is important for us, life insurance is important to us, business insurance is important to running a business. It's allowing that business to be prepared for things when the day is not sunny, when rain decides it's going to come on a particular day.
Absolutely, and that's why we're here to talk about that this evening. And did we have before we move to our next speaker, which is our spotlighted speaker for this evening, Brother Reginald Gant, were there any other questions for Mr. Johnny Jones in regards to business insurance and the importance of that? Definitely something that that you all, certainly for the entrepreneurs that are part of BPM, you certainly want to make sure, just like you talk to your accountant, just like you talk to, you may talk to any other team member that you have, or any other, I should say, team member that you get, your graphic designers, anything with your brand and everything like that. Having business insurance is certainly something that you want to have someone such as Johnny Jones to talk to, so that they can give you the ins and outs. Because it's a lot of times what you don't know, So if you're unaware of it, but you have someone that can connect you with those tools that will give you information on what you need to know, then you certainly should be doing that, because you don't want to get caught out here and that be one of the reasons you're not prepared to be able to handle that legal situation. Because we always say this, you can pay them now or you can pay a lot later. And it's always better to pay now and be prepared for something that may happen than to be not prepared and have something to happen. And then you're thrown, either maybe filing for bankruptcy or something like that can happen. So that's one aspect that we were going to talk about tonight. That's the business side. That's the business side of being. Do you have your affairs in order? For our business entrepreneurs, for our entrepreneurs, do you have your business affairs in order? Like Johnny said, who's going to, if something happens to you, what happens to the business? Those are conversations that need to be had, that need to be talked about. So we have to be prepared to be able to talk with our families, to talk with our business partners. If you're in partnership with somebody, you certainly have to have those conversations so that they know, and you should know on the flip side of them as well. If something happens, what's going to happen with the business, or what will happen with your side of the business? Is it going to be a buyout thing? Is it going to be a thing where, a family member may take over? And it makes me think about, because I was talking about this the other day really quickly, the owner of the Rams now is the daughter of the former owner of that originally, I think, owned the Rams. But she took it over because he passed away and it was left to her. So she was put in this position where, hey, I got this football team that I now have to, strategize and organize and move forward and everything like that. So you never know what's going to happen with your business, and you have to be legally prepared for it. So we definitely want to make sure that, and that was one of the things that we wanted to talk about. And the second part of this not the business side, but we're going to talk about the personal side of it. And I think most of the brothers are familiar with this brother that's going to be talking. He comes and talks, talks with us and communicates with us all the time, but is engaged with BPM and part of BPM as well. But he's going to bring to us tonight the personal side of, do we have our affairs in order? And that's none other than Mr. Reginald Gant himself, Mr. Is it self-serve or serve yourself to greatness? Mr. Serve yourself to greatness himself. But Mr. Reginald, I'm gonna give you the mic, let you have the mic and let you do what you do, brother.
All right. I appreciate the warm introduction, Mr. McKenzie, and greetings to everyone who's here. I have to, first of all, pay homage to Mr. Johnny Jones before I even get started. Many may not know, but he's been a mentor to my wife and I for a number of years, so much so that we actually are part of the same mission. We share the same vision. We share the same message with Legal Shield, not just here in Maryland, but all across this country in which we find ourselves in. And he's been amazing and instrumental in leading the expansion nationally, as well as into the borders of Canada as well. So Mr. Jones, I appreciate even the opportunity to even go behind you. I'm not going to be before everyone long. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the personal side and talk a little bit about the benefits of having a will. And I just want to share that I'm going to be educating you tonight. A lot of this is probably information that you may be aware of, but as men, especially as Black professional men, as African-American men of color, we don't have these conversations enough. So tonight is all about education. And there's so many different reasons and benefits as to why us as men need to have our wills in place. I want to share first and foremost that if someone is listening tonight and you don't have it, and somehow, some way, God decides to call your number and you slip out of this world and you don't have a will in place, what you have basically done is position yourself to allow what they call probate court, i.e. a stranger who has no vested interest in the benefit of your family or your assets, to basically step in and determine how your assets are going to be distributed. And I just want to say, for us as men and for us as fathers and husbands, how disappointing would it be if we worked hard all of these years, right? And we reached the end of life and we looked up and we have failed to protect the very things that matter the most. What do I mean when I say that? I mean, as Mr. Johnny Jones was talking about earlier, our business. I mean, i.e. our family. God has called us to be good stewards over the things that he's given us. And for many of us, if you have a wife, if you have a spouse or children, right? If you have a significant other, if you have a business, God has called us to be good stewards over those things. How disappointing would it be if we slipped out of this world, before our time, because obviously we don't know when that day is going to come. But what we find more often than not is that too many of us as Black men, too many African-American men, too many people of color, whether we are Black or brown, leave this earth with little to no protection at all, right? And what we do is we leave our families in the position where not only do they have to grieve, but they also have to make tough decisions at the same time. I mean, if you can just look at some of the folks that have passed away recently, right? DMX this year, right? I can't think of his name. I think Michael, right? Michael Omar from The Wire, right? And then I think about some noticeable names, some names that we probably know as men. These men have reached what we call the pinnacles of success. They've amassed millions and millions and millions of dollars. They had the financial wherewithal to get their will, to get their estate plan, right? To get their power of attorneys in place. They had the wherewithal to do it, but they slipped out of this world before they had a chance to do it. I'm talking about men like Steve McNair, right? Former NFL football player who was murdered, by the way. I'm talking about men like Michael Jackson, probably the greatest figure to walk this earth, after Jesus. I'm talking about somebody like Prince, right? And when I'm talking about Prince and Michael Jackson, I'm talking about two men who've accumulated more than $900 million worth of assets. Jimi Hendrix, right? These men slipped out of this earth and they didn't have their wills. They didn't have their estates in order. And can you imagine how many cousins and aunties and uncles are now going to come out of the woodworks, right? Because what? They want a piece of that pie. They want a piece of that estate. And as men, it's our job. God has mandated us to lead, to protect, to provide. And we have to start to take the protection piece serious. Now, physically, we know we will physically protect our families by any means necessary, you know, whether that's bearing arms, you know, whether that's making sure that we have security systems on our homes, on our automobiles, whatever, mace, whatever it is, right? But we neglect the other parts of protection. We neglect the spiritual protection, for one, right? But for the sake of tonight's conversation, we don't have the crucial conversations to talk about wills, talking about estate plans, talking about life insurance. And it's just so important. I think for men, we have to get rid of the notion that, you know, there's several things as to probably why men don't do it. For one, it's uncomfortable, right? Secondly, nobody wants to think about end of life. Thirdly, many may think that they can't afford it, you know, and I'm here to negate each and every one of those things. It is a conversation that needs to be had, uncomfortable or not, right? Because we're mandated. Is it affordable? Absolutely. Now, outside of the service that Mr. Jones and I provide through Legal Shield, what I found to be true is that on average, the nationwide cost of a will can average anywhere between $800 to $1,000 per person. So if you're a single person, 800 to 1,000. If you're a married couple, or if you are, you know, in a relationship and you're with a significant other, you're talking about anywhere between $1,600 to $2,000 to get your wills and your estate plans in order. But through this amazing service that we provide, my wife and I, that we've been providing since 2005, you don't even have to worry about paying 800, 900, 1,000, nowhere near that. You don't even have to worry about paying $360 because you can get all of that peace of mind for less than $360. And meanwhile, there are so many things, right, that we can leave room for procrastination with, you know, concerning, you know, our everyday affairs. I just want to simply say to the men, right, creating your will is not one of the things that you just want to lead to procrastination, because we just never know. And it's never too early to start the process. I remember when I was first introduced to this service, and it was interesting because, you know, it was a beautiful young lady who shared it with me, who is now my wife, by the way. And I was in my late 20s, and I remember she began to ask me a series of questions as she began to educate me. And she asked me, did I have a will in place? I said, no. And she asked me why not, you know, and at that time in my life, you know, I don't know where you men are in your lives, but in my 20s, right, I was in my mid to late 20s. I wasn't thinking about a will. My automatic thought was that wills are for old people, right? Wills are for end of life, right? Somebody that's choking, right? They're on their deathbed. They're on their way out. And she began to ask me, you know, a different set of questions. You know, did I have a child? Did I have a home? Did I have an automobile? Did I have a business? And the answer was yes to all of those. And she began to educate me that, you know, if something were to happen to me, that all of those things would be left unprotected. But the most important part to me was that she shared that, you know, if I didn't have a will in place as a parent, you know, and my daughter's mother and I, you know, we were no longer in a relationship. So we were co-parenting from different households. She shared that, you know, there was a potential chance for a probate court, i.e. a stranger, to come in and to dictate what would happen to the things that I've been working hard for my entire life. And, you know, if you're anything like me, I was extremely uncomfortable, and I refused to allow a stranger to dictate, you know, what's for the best interest of my family, right? What's in the best interest of, you know, the things that I've worked hard for. I refuse to allow a stranger to be able to come in and do that. So I picked up the service and I got my wills done, you know, and I was in, like I said earlier, my mid to late 20s. And I was the first person in my family, to my knowledge, to do it. And once the mind is open, right, it can no longer go back to what it used to be. I was so excited that I began to share and I began to educate, so much so that, you know, I end up eventually marrying the young lady. You know, here we are, you know, years later, you know, married, 5 beautiful children, blended family, right? And now we take this mission along with Mr. Johnny Jones all across this nation. But I was fortunate enough to educate my family. And then my parents got it, right? And then they began to talk to their siblings, and their siblings got it. And it just grew, right? And I just want to share that there are important things that we need to consider. And Mr. Johnny Jones talked about it earlier again. He talked about the standard will. He talked about the living will. He talked about the importance of having a medical power of attorney. And if you have children over the age of 18, as was shared earlier, and they are away at college or, even in state at college, you need to have that document signed, financial power of attorney. We need to have all of these things in place. So what exactly are some of the benefits to having a will? Some of the benefits to having an estate plan, right? Number one, it streamlines processes for family and loved ones following death. So nobody has to guess. You take all of the guesswork away from what folks want, right? Everyone knows that you had a will. Hopefully you've shared where it is and you've shared it with the key important people that need to know. And when end of life reaches us or you or whatever it is in that situation, they can streamline and bypass a lot of different processes by automatically going to those sets of documents and letting what is in those things dictate what happens next, right? Another benefit of having the will, you get to protect your inheritance for your heirs, right? So you make sure that, you spell out what your spouse gets, what your children get, right? What your loved ones get. If you don't have a spouse or children, you have total autonomy and control over protecting your inheritance. A third reason is that you get to allocate money or assets however you want. You actually get to create a trust if you want, and through our service, you get education on how to create trust. So, a benefit to having your will is that you get to allocate your money or assets the way that you see fit. And you get to have the education of someone sharing with you what's the best way to do it. A fourth reason is that, having a living will in place in cases of incapacitation, right, or physical deterioration. And this is what we call the healthcare power of attorney. Let's just say, we get into an accident. We're no longer able to speak. We're no longer able to think for ourselves. Having that healthcare power of attorney takes away the guesswork. My wife and I, unfortunately, we had to put that to the test because our first year of marriage, we got married in May of 2015. My father-in-law walked into a hospital in September of that same year. My wife was already a few months pregnant at that point. And he never came out. He walked into the hospital September of 2015. He transitioned into eternity in November of 15. So between September and November, somehow, he ended up having a series of different strokes and things in the hospital. He lost his ability to talk. He lost his ability to communicate. He lost his ability to do a lot of things. And, now we had to figure out, what to do. His wife, our stepmom was looking at the children, saying, hey, what should we do? The children were looking, at the stepmom like, hey, that was your spouse, what should we do? And it was a difficult time. And we made it through somehow. But I'm share that story to say this, let's not let that be you. Getting your healthcare power of attorney in order right now alleviates all of the guesswork from folks having to wonder what it is that you would want done in that particular situation. And a last benefit of a will, right? You get to prepare for burial costs and coverage and necessary taxes. So you get to take care of those things and even plan those things and even pay for those things in advance. So again, you don't want to pass away and then leave your family to grieve and have to make decisions and financial decisions and call in resources and pop up GoFundMe pages and all of the things that we see done in our community too often. Having our wills in place, having our estate plans in place allows us to take the control, allows us to take the power and the ownership, and for us to, as men, spell out what exactly is it that we want. Is it uncomfortable, men? Absolutely it is. Is it necessary? Absolutely it is. Do we owe it to ourselves and our loved ones to protect them? Absolutely we do. So whether you are a business owner or not, whether you are a father or not, whether you are a husband or not, you still are obligated to be a good steward over that which God has given you. And that's your health, that's your assets, those are your loved ones. So, is it important to have a will and estate plan? Absolutely. My wife and I have been running for a number of years what we call the campaign, hashtag where there is a will, there's a way. And in essence, it's just giving you direct access to getting the will done. the medical power of attorney, the financial directors, the whole 9 yards. Again, as I said, through the service that we've been providing, since 2005, less than $360, whether you're an individual or whether you are married and or have a significant other. Less than $360 gets you 3 things. It gives you, number 1, peace of mind. It gives you, number 2, a plan in place when life happens to you, not if life happens to you, but when life happens to you. And number 3, it gives you protection. It wraps protection, peace of mind, and a plan around your loved ones should that final day come a lot sooner than we expected. We live in these days and times when COVID-19 are taking Black men out, right? Obviously, there's still, a lot of hatred and crime and violence towards Black men. So that's another way that we're taken out, right? And then sometimes it's just natural causes. So there's so many barriers and things that are taking us as African-American men out earlier than expected. Whether it's the prison system, whether it's drugs and alcohol, whatever it is, right? The responsible men that are listening to this call, watching this video tonight, now that I've educated you, now that you've heard that, a will is needed, now that you've heard that an estate plan is needed, now that you've heard that you can afford it, and you can even put down a small $29 deposit per month for the next 12 months. Now that you know that you can afford it and that you need it, the only question that remains is, are you and your loved ones worth it? And then the second question following that, if they are, what are you waiting for if you don't have it? So with that, Mr. McKenzie, I will turn it back over to you. For anybody that wanted to discuss wills, you can definitely text the word wills to 443-845-1766. And I'll actually just put that right here next to my name. Text the word wills to this cell phone number. I'll be glad to have a conversation, share some information, share some resources. But thank you for your time, Mr. McKenzie. I'll turn it back over to you.
Reginald. Before because I got a question I have a couple questions for you, but if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to ask them. But Brother Johnny, if you can put your contact information into the chat as well, that'd be great for folks to be able to connect with you from the business side of it, to be able to talk about that. But Reg, I had a question for you, and I was on a Zoom last night, and it totally blew my mind. But there was this a couple, or not couple, but it was 2 individuals, but they were talking about insurance as well, and I knew we were going to be talking about this tonight. But they did their presentation, and theirs was like a almost like a fidelity insurance and everything like that. But here's something that they said, and I don't know if you can speak to this or not, but I asked, they talked about men and women in the prison system, and they weren't allowed to give them insurance. They weren't allowed to get insurance. Is there, what would you suggest to someone that may need a will or may need an estate plan, that may be incarcerated? Is there something that's available for them, or something that they can do on that end? It got me thinking about it. I had to call my best friend. Her brother is in jail right now. I was like, hey, do you have anything for your brother that's in jail? And she was like, no, I can't do it. And I was like, are you serious? So I'm wondering, I don't know, and I don't even know if you've ever even thought of that perspective, or if you all even deal with it. But for someone who may have a family member that's incarcerated, is there anything that they might be able to do on that end?
Mr. McKenzie, I've never been tossed that question before. I've never actually even dealt with that demographic or had that thought. So let me defer to Mr. Jones. Have you come across that before? Because Mr. Jones has definitely been an incredible resource in this space. And I'm not sure that I know how to answer that, because I've never even considered the person behind bars.
It blew me away. It blew me away, Reginald. I was like, wow.
If the person is, unmarried or anything like that, and they're in jail, they lose the right to sign contracts, which means that they typically get stuck that way. If they have a spouse, or the spouse gets the membership, then now they're protected. So now they can do it through a spouse if they have a spouse, or somebody that they're coupled with. But if they're by themselves, they're kind of left flapping in the wind. And I've talked to people that actually work with people that are in jail. His mission is to help them get empowered to have access to services like insurance and everything else, because a lot of times they're going through abuse. Some people are in jail and they didn't do anything wrong, but they're in jail. And those people are the ones that linger in there, and they can sit in there for, you hear the stories, 3-5 years they were in jail, they were locked up, and they couldn't, because when you go to jail, you stop working, you stop having access to things, which means that they no longer have the funds to defend themselves. So it's so important that we remember to look out for them and try to put them in a position. So I know if they have a spouse or a significant other, if that person gets coverage, they will be covered that way. But it's much, much harder for somebody if they're on their own by themselves and they don't have a plan. They don't have anything. It's hard to sign an agreement when you're in jail.
Yeah. Wow. And like I said, Brett, I'd never thought of it either until I heard them talking about it last night. And I was like, wow, that's
unfortunately a population that we forget about, because you don't see them on a day-to-day basis. Now, do they have rights? Yes, they do. Do they deserve to have rights? Yeah, sure, because they're human beings as well. But I've never actually dealt with a person behind bars trying to obtain this service. I've actually only encountered, I like to speak to men and fathers and husbands, right? Men who are working, for that matter. I've never thought about that demographic before, but thank you for opening up my mind to that thought.
Wow. Yeah. And I was like, well, that'd be and I knew I wanted to bring it up tonight because, like I said, I'd never thought of it and wasn't sure if there was, any that. So it's definitely something that we think about. Have to about that if they do pass away in prison, kind of what happens with them or to them and everything like that. My second question for you, Reginald, is I got some statistics again, but as of 2018, 8.5% didn't have.
You're breaking in and out a little bit.
Life insurance. 48% of people. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, as of 2018, 8.5%, 5 million people didn't have health insurance. 48% of people who die every day leave no life insurance benefits, and 21% don't leave enough insurance. Can you talk about why we talking about our community, why our community, we don't place a priority on having life insurance, having the will, having the estate plan together before it's too late?
Yeah, that's such a fantastic question. And I think, unfortunately, because of the way that this country has positioned itself in regards to the minority community, many of us, in our African-American communities and our underserved cities and populations all across this country are starting off life from behind, right? So what does that mean? That means that many of us are scrambling just to survive from day to day, right? Most of the time, if you look at it, many of us, maybe even on this call, probably have come from maybe single parent households, right? Dad was nowhere to be found. Dad may have left the family. Some don't even know who dad was, right? So that's an issue in itself. So many of us as men have been raised by women, but most importantly, many of us have not been educated. We don't sit around at the dinner table and have the kind of conversations that other cultures have, right? There is no talking about, leaving a will, right? Leaving behind an estate plan, right? Because what is the estate plan? The estate plan is trying to make it from Monday into Tuesday, right? And for most of us, we feel like oftentimes we don't even really have anything to leave behind anyway. But what I would venture to say is that you have something of value that somebody wants, because, and Mr. Jones can attest to this, there have been times when we've gotten a call, somebody has passed away, right? They didn't think that they had anything, but guess what? Family going to blows because that person had a big screen TV, right? Somebody had a fancy fork, right? And now I want the fork, right? So you got siblings literally going to blows, not speaking to each other for decades, right? Because somebody wants the album, right? The CD player. We have things that somebody else wants. But in our community, because we're so stuck on surviving from day to day, we don't have a chance to sit down and educate ourselves on what really matters. And we place a lot of priority in our community, unfortunately, on looking rich, right? Rather than accumulating wealth. I mean, you know, you have the person that's making $15 an hour, you know, they get their paycheck, they're going out there buying Gucci, they're buying, you know, Fendi and all of those things. But then they pass away, right? Family, what's the first thing they're doing? Throwing up GoFundMe, right? That same $500 that you spent on that ugly Gucci belt could have got you life insurance. You understand what I'm saying? But we don't have these conversations in our community. And that's why I love to have them in these kinds of forums, because I challenge men and fathers and husbands to that this is the generation, right, where we say enough is enough and it stops. This is the generation where we open up our minds, where we begin to educate. This is the generation where we begin to accumulate enough wealth that we actually have something to turn around and leave behind. So the reason why so many of us, you know, in our underserved cities, our underserved populations across the country don't have it, you know, we've never been educated. But education has to start somewhere. Somebody has to be the person to say, you know, hey, I'm going to draw a line in the sand. I'm going to draw a line in the sand and not my family, right? Not on my watch. I was the first person to get a will. I didn't know anything about it, right? But I was educated and made sense. And I wanted to be responsible, right? So what we need to do is raise up a generation of responsible men and fathers and husbands who will educate themselves on getting wills, on getting life insurance, right? On what investments look like, so that we can, in turn, instead of just dying and leaving stress, turning around and actually leaving an inheritance, right? You know, the Bible, the word says a good man leaves an inheritance for who? His grandchildren, right? And this is the generation that has to say, hey, you know what? I'm not only here for my grandchildren, but I'm here for their grandchildren. So, you know, I think lack of education probably will be the number one reason. And, you know, we're just stuck in survival mode, you know, trying to survive from day to day because of the way that we've been set up in this country, you know. But I believe that there is a day coming, you know, when the Black community will stand up. We will understand the power of our wealth, right? Because we spend billions of dollars in other people's communities. And I do see a day, one day, when we will take those billions that we spend and we will keep them in-house the same way that the Jewish dollar circulates within their community. But it's going to take a lot of conversation, and it's going to take a lot of men to be responsible enough to stand up and lead that charge.
Yeah, and I think by having you and having Brother Johnny talk about specifically these kind of things to get that message out there, I think is vitally important, because hopefully this will spark those conversations, those kitchen or to the table conversations that we, most of us, weren't privy to growing up, where we talked about money. We talked about, you know, those kinds of things that can get passed on from generation to generation. I always think about what Master P started his no limit from a $10,000 life insurance policy that he received from his grandfather. And that's what we have to understand, that, like Reginald said, like you said, that we may not think that we have wealth, but just having a policy to be able to cover your burial expenses or whatever bills that might be left, covering that leaves people, you know, kind of helps people out. Because I'll say it and I'll keep saying it to men, understand this, that it is vitally important that you have those things in place, because you don't want to leave that burden to your family. They're already going through the grieving process of dealing with you being passed on. I know it personally. It happened to me. Happened with my father when he passed away. No will. We had to go through the probate and everything else, because he had a couple of properties, and there were us that were the siblings that had to deal with that whole situation. So it's real, y'all. This situation, what you hear Reginald talking about, what you hear Johnny talking about, those situations are real. And I'm gonna tell you, Reginald, you do have people are fighting over this.
People will fight over a fork. You know what I mean? It's so stupid. You know, siblings will fight over silverware. because they wanted the silverware and mama didn't designate who gets the silverware, and to me, it's just ridiculous, right? So this is how I approach men. And this will be my last comment. Is one of two things that we can be, once we transition on. Either we're going to be a burden, right, to those that we leave behind, or we're going to be a blessing. You choose. And being a burden means that you failed to do your due diligence and steward what was given to you. Or you can choose to be a blessing, take care of the things that you should take care of, leave your loved ones with nothing but peace of mind, and then everybody's happy at that point. So burden or blessing, the choice is yours.
Yes. Also, we have a question from John Harris. Please unmute yourself.
Okay.
I don't know if he can. I don't know if he could.
Oh yeah, he said he can do voice only.
I'm John Harris. So I have one thing I want to say that was a really great question to Leroy McKenzie for the question about incarcerated persons, but I have a follow-up question to that. So if someone has that will before they're incarcerated, does it stand or does it get revoked?
That's a great question. And to my knowledge, as long as you have a will, that will holds up. I mean, I know one of the things that we should do is update our will often, but if you have a will and it's registered and it's legal and it's binding, that last will be what takes precedence versus not having the will at all. Mr. Jones, You could back me up, but I'm pretty certain that that's how it works.
Yeah, what you're saying is correct. But one thing I've heard, even when you have a will, doesn't mean you won't go to probate. The difference is having a will means that when you go to probate, the judge pretty much is going to say this is valid, and he's going to probably follow it line by line. But when you go to probate without a will, then the judge gets to choose.
Mm-hmm. And so so another question I have. So I have a will, I have an advance directive or a DNR, do not resuscitate. So one thing that's been identified to me is that I don't know if it's the right name, but I need to know if I need a separate vehicle. So what I would call is a living will. If I become incapacitated, my partner's no there, whoever, there's no one there, where do I go? If I need someone to take care of me, I'll tell you right now, I don't want to go to some siblings and I don't want to go to some cousins. So where do I go? Who's going to take care of me? Not just in a state of a hospital choice of life and death, but where do you want to go? So is there a separate vehicle that's for identifying an advance directive on what you want happen to you if you can't take care of yourself? One, maybe for physical reasons or for mental incapacitation. Maybe you're on a reduced mental capacity. So in short, the question is there a separate vehicle and what is it called?
Yeah, that sounds like it's the living will. That's what it sounds like to me. And yeah, that's when you do spell out, what do you want to happen to you in those situations. So with Legal Shield, you get living will, you get last will and testament, you get medical directors, i.e. medical power of attorney, as well as financial power of attorney. You get all of those different documents, and you do want to make sure that you have all of those documents in place. Living will is exactly what it says. While I'm alive, something happens to me, this is what I want followed. Last will and testament says, hey, I've reached end of life, this is what I want to happen, right? And then obviously medical and financial speak for themselves. Medically, right? Who do I want to make my medical decisions? Financially, who do I want to make my financial decisions? So if you are interested or concerned about that, you definitely want to look into having a living will, because that will spell out clearly, everything that you are desiring to take care of.
Okay, I think I have all three of those then.
Okay.
I just didn't know if they had a different name, or
Yep.
I think they put the DNR into the living will as an
I do believe so.
section.
Yeah.
And then so I wasn't sure if it was a separate document. Okay, so the living
Sounds
will
like you have it
cover-
taken care of.
Okay, yeah, I need to update it. I haven't done that will in probably 5 years. So.
Yep. And we want to try to make sure that we can update that at least once a year, maybe once every other year, because as life changes, right? Sometimes we welcome children in, sometimes, we get married, sometimes we get divorced. You want to make sure that, it's staying up to date. We might acquire a property or two, right? We might have stepchildren that we need to consider, blended families. You want to make sure that you can have your documents updated as regularly as you can, according to however your finances take care of that. And one of the things that Mr. Jones and I love about our service is that once you get it, you can update it at least once a year for free, every year thereafter, as long as you keep the service.
And I have my last question is, so if you have a will, everything's spelled out. But like you said, you acquire additional property. Does that slow down the probate process, or do they say, can you say in there any other properties go here? And because the executor should be clear on.
I missed a little part of the last end of that question.
Yeah, somebody tried to call me. I'm on my phone. So I was saying, do you have to have you're supposed to update to make sure everything's covered. So if you miss something, is there a way to say all other properties go here, or do you have to go back and add in that additional property?
I would try to call in and add that in as often as possible. Because what's going to happen, to my knowledge and what I found to be true is that I've known individuals to be in that situation, and they have left things out, and the old will was tested, and those things that they wanted to add in were not included, and they were not added in. So I would say to try to keep it as up to date as possible. If you have something, and it sounds like you already do, since it's already top of mind for you, I would just say reach out to that person that helped you with those documents, right? Reach out to all of the decision makers in the process. So whether you're making, living will decisions, whether you're making end of life decisions, begin to rally all of the important figures together, begin to get everyone on one accord. But make sure as often as possible that you can update that information.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And here's my suggestion, what I tell men that they should have, and this should go for your others as well. Last thing before we get to our member spotlight, Brother Darnyle, which is going to be tying in what we our whole theme for this evening. But every man, you should have a folder in your household. There should be a folder that has all of your insurance information, all of the documentation that you may need, your bank account information. All of those things should be in that one folder. So that if something does happen to you, or if something happens to your spouse, all you have to do is go to that folder and you have all of the information that you needed. That's your life insurance policy, that's your bank account information, that's any other, your deed, any other important information that you will need or that they will need in order to be able to take care of the affairs that they need to be able to take care of. That would be my suggestion to every man tonight listening to us. Make sure that you have that folder and someone knows where that folder is and knows where to go to in order to be able to access it and be able to access your information. So that's vitally important. Not just having it, but also making sure that people know where, at least one or two people know where to go to in order to be able to get it. It's crucial. Now, our members spotlight, I thought really tied into this, which I'm glad that he was able to join us this evening because he's on the other side of this, which I'm sure he's going to discuss. But it's Brother Darnyle Wharton. Brother Darnyle, you want to come up and introduce yourself and then talk to us a little bit about your organization and what you do, and then the importance of what it is that you do. We appreciate you joining us here tonight as well.
Good afternoon, brothers. Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Darnyle Wharton. I am the co-organizer, one of the co-organizers of Baltimore Ceasefire 365. We are, it's 6 of us, two co-founders. One is Erica Bridgeford and others are Ogun Gordy, who came up with the idea of Baltimore Ceasefire 365, based off of the fact of where they seen Baltimore headed. As everybody knows, that Baltimore is right now and going into the 6th consecutive year of having over 300 murders in the city. And as all Baltimore natives, we took the love that we have for the city and decided to pour back into the city what the city had given us. All of us grew up in the city, on all sides of the city, north, south, east, and west, and went to school here, worked here, did everything here, still live here. And we saw that Baltimore needed a break or needed something to jolt them back into a frame of mind to say, stop being numb to what's going on in Baltimore right now. We needed a love movement. We needed a peace movement. We needed to change the hearts and minds of the men and the women and the children, the elders in Baltimore City to say, let's start leading with love. Let's start leading with peace. Let's start leading with light, because we know that murder is a spirit. It's a entity that has taken over the streets of Baltimore, Maryland, and also combined with the factors that go into the crime and murder on the streets, where you're talking homelessness, joblessness, hopelessness, systemic racism, mental addiction, substance abuse, all of these things, poverty that can lead to what's going on in our city, how it's affecting our families, how it's affecting our relationships with men, women, married couples, our kids, elders, school, church, everything, how it can affect the way we live. And what happens is, in order for somebody to try to get ahead, they feel like some of the things they have to do has to, the decisions they have to make based off of how they're living can lead to some of the problems that we're seeing in the city today. So what happened was, Erica was riding along with one of her kids, and one of her kids said back in 2017 that, "Mom, do you know that the murder rate will be at its highest that it has ever been in Baltimore City?" And she said, "Wait, what do you mean? What are you talking about? It's going to be the highest." "Yeah, it's going to be the highest that it's ever been in Baltimore City." This is back in 2017. And she said, "We need to do something about that." And she remembered a conversation that she had with our other co-founder, Ogun, when we were all part of the 300 Men March movement. And he came with an idea that says he'd one day seen a special on ceasefires between third world countries. And he's wondering, I wonder if this is something that we can do, if this is something that we could do in Baltimore, Maryland. And he had a conversation with her back in 2015, but something happened. They never got back together. But when she had this conversation with her son in 2017, she called him back and said, something needs to be done. We need to do something. We need to call a ceasefire. Whatever it is, however we need to do it, let's just do it. So they got together, they brainstormed on how they want to do it. They wanted to do a weekend of 72 hours of nobody getting killed. But in that 72 hours, what we try to do is we try to change the hearts and the mind frames of people toward peace, but also jolt them and wake them up to what was going on in the city. Because what was going on is people were becoming numb to the murders. They were seeing it every day on the news, hearing it every day on the radio, seeing it in their neighborhoods, hearing it from other people. And people started to becoming, oh, that's just another murder. What's going on tomorrow? And just moving on. And the feeling of what was going on in the city was leaving because people were just so numb to the murders. So we said, we got to jolt the people. Sometimes you got to put some electricity into a situation to make people realize what exactly is going on, so they're not going through life as zombies and with blinders on and not understanding what was going on. So we decided to do the 72-hour weekend, and we came up with the flyers and the posters, and we started putting it out there. We started hitting. It was only 6 of us. She had called 4 more people, me and 3 other people, to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. The 6 of us. We're going to try to make a difference in Baltimore City, and we're going to talk about Baltimore ceasefire. We're going to talk about peace. We're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about loving yourself enough to spread love to somebody else. So came up with the logos, and went on our social media, and we started putting it out there about the 72-hour weekend that we're going to do in August of 2017. And we want you to be involved. And what it was is, it was a self-determination movement. that we said, whatever peace looks like to you, we want you to celebrate it that weekend. And we want you to have an event. And we're going to take that event and we're going to put it in our calendar and we're going to blast it out to everybody across the city. And we want everybody to attend this event. And in these events, it's going to be peace. It's going to be fun. It's going to be love. And it's going to be so many events going on across the city, that so much fun happening, that people are going to go to the events and won't think about doing anything violent that weekend. That was the premise. The premise was have so much things going on that for peace and love and light that you can attend across the city, that you won't even think about doing anything violent or saying anything violent or being a part of anything violent, because you're going to be having so much fun at these other events across the city. So that was the premise. And we started asking people, what do you want to do? What does peace look like to you? And people said, I want to have a prayer walk. I want to do a run. I want to have a cookout in my yard. I want to have a basketball tournament. I want to do this. All these events started coming up. We was like, do it. Have it. We're going to let people know. And we're going to send people there. As many people we can possibly get. I don't care how many people come. We just want to get people there to celebrate peace, love, and light and have fun with each other in Baltimore City. And it kicked off. And at that particular point in time, it was 525,000 people that lived in Baltimore. Actually, no. Yeah, about 525,000 people that lived in Baltimore City. And we wanted to let everybody know that was going on. The six of us took on this task of letting all of Baltimore know in August of 2017, in the first weekend, we're going to do 72 hours. Nobody kill anybody. Nobody. Haven't been heard about in Baltimore City ever, but we're going to try this. We're going to do this because we want to talk about love and light. And the thing about the movement, it wasn't our movement. It didn't belong to the six of us. We gave it to Baltimore. This is your movement. This is what you're going to do. This is how it's going to happen for you, not for the six of us. We want it to happen across the city because we understood that if one person has a mind state of peace and they start talking about that mind state of peace and love, and they talk to three other people about it, and then those three people talk to three people, and then those people talk to people, it'll start to kick off. Maybe we could possibly do this. Because once you hear about something, you can never unhear it. You might not agree with it. You might not want to think about it, but you can't unhear it. And once you have it in your mind, you're going to think about it. So that's what we did. And it kind of ties into what you're saying when get your affairs in order, because what we were trying to do is we were trying to get Baltimore back in a place where Charm City meant something. It meant peace. It meant love. It meant camaraderie. It meant friendship. It meant fellowship. And we wanted Baltimore to be there. So we went about it, went on our social media, just pushing it out. Talk about it to everybody we knew. Our thing was, I'm going to tell three people, and we want you to tell three people. And we want you to tell those three people to tell three people. Kind of like a pyramid club. Just keep going. And it goes on and on and on. And it started catching on online. And we started getting people to want to be involved. And we came up with something called the Baltimore Peace Challenge. Now, the Baltimore Peace Challenge is we are challenging you to be peaceful. Whatever it is in life that you want to do, we want you to be peaceful at it. And it kind of put accountability into people to be peaceful. Can I be peaceful for 72 hours and beyond? What is it in my life that I can do, that I can choose to do differently than what I did the other day that was possibly violent? What did I say to somebody that I could have took back? How did I look at somebody? What did I gossip? Did I do anything? Did I insult anybody? Did I use my words and my actions in a way that was violent? And how can I change that? Let me take the Baltimore Peace Challenge and see if I can do that. So we asked people to do that also. And it started catching on. And the thing about it was, we were asking people in Baltimore to help. So we were asking the mayor to get involved. We were asking We were asking councilmen to get involved. We were happy, you know, asking all these people that had a plan on violence to get involved with this also. And a lot of people, I don't know if it's going to happen. Holler at me on Monday when it's over. And, you know, we were like, okay, all right, however you want to do it, however you want it, it's cool, but this is what we're going to do. But what happened was we started getting calls from other countries, Portugal, Spain, South Africa, saying, what are y'all doing in Baltimore? What is this I'm hearing about a ceasefire in Baltimore where you're saying 72 hours when nobody's getting killed? I'm standing with you. I'm here in Spain and I heard about it, and we're standing with you in Spain. We're standing with you in Portugal and South Africa. And then we got Chicago. We got other cities in America saying, I heard about something that y'all are trying to do in Baltimore. We stand with you. We want to see if this can happen because we've seen what's been happening in Baltimore the past couple of years. HBO called us up. Actually, HBO came to town and started asking around, who is this group of individuals that sparked this movement? And the mayor thought that HBO was coming to town for her. So she said, y'all can come and meet me at City Hall. And they said, no, we're not coming to talk to you. We're coming to talk to these 6 individuals that are talking about 72 hours and no killing. Who are they? Do you know who they are? And she was like, well, I heard a little bit about it, so forth and so on. Here are the people and blah, blah. And because it started kicking off like that, that's when everybody started coming on saying, well, maybe I ought to, you know, maybe I ought to, I support this. But it's cool because you know what? Peace lets everybody in. Love includes everybody. Whether you want to be involved or not, it involves everybody. So the weekend kicked off. We got to the weekend, and the first, at that particular point in time, every 19 hours in Baltimore, somebody was getting killed. So every 19 hours, there was a murder happening in Baltimore City. When ceasefire weekend, August 2017 hit, we went 42 hours with nobody being killed. And then on that 42nd hour, we lost Lamontre Hines. In the city, you could hear a gasp. Oh, man. But the gasp that you heard was success to us because people started waking up and they started saying, this was something that we wanted to do. We wanted to get to 72 hours with nobody being killed. And we're having all these events. And there was prayer walks happening. It was all these things happening. We had over 75 events happening that weekend that people were going to and having fun. And that weekend, one other person got murdered. 2 murders in that weekend. But the weekends before that, there were 9, 10, 6, 7. Baltimore started waking up. Baltimore started saying, we can do this. And that was the Baltimore ceasefire movement. And after that weekend, we decided we're going to do this 4 times a year. We're going to keep going with this. And people saying, yes, let's keep going. Let's keep going. And we went another weekend. In February of 2018, we had a weekend where nobody was killed. 72 hours. Unheard of in Baltimore in years. Nobody killed for 72 hours. Whereas there was somebody being killed once every 19 hours. Now nobody was killed for 72 hours. And what we did, what people thought 6 people could do, it wasn't about 6 people. It was about a mind state that we asked Baltimore to buy into. Buy into peace. Buy into love. Buy into light. But also provide resources for people to make a choice. One of the things that I talk to when I talk to young cats in the street, I tell them and I ask them, if there was something else that you could do other than what you're doing now, what would it be? And I get all type of answers. I wish I could get my GED. I wish I can get a job. I wish I can go back to college. I wish I could do this. And right then and there, I pull out my phone. I call my phone my resource center, and I type in whatever it is. I type in GED, and I get all of these contacts. And I say, I need you to contact this person tomorrow. They will put you on track to get your GED. I'll follow up with you next week and see how it is. And I walk away with that, and I say, I'll be back. But what I left them with was a choice, because now they have a choice. When they wake up tomorrow morning, they can say, I can either go back to trapping, or I can follow this, I can call this number that Mr. D gave me and see where that goes. Because once you give somebody a choice, they now have the ability to be accountable to do something different. And that was another thing that Baltimore Ceasefire was about, giving people the opportunity to do things different in their life if they feel that they want to do something different. So that's why we supply resources with them. And that's what Baltimore Ceasefire is about: peace, love, and giving people a better way and another choice to live. And that's why I became a part of this. I actually met Kendra through an event that me and a couple of my brothers were at during Thanksgiving of last year, and she saw how we got together, and it was just love for that Thanksgiving event. And then I became a member of BPM earlier this year. Been a member, seeing how things are happening here, seeing the brotherhood and the camaraderie and the talk of business and accountability and fellowship amongst each other. And it's kind of what I am a part of with Baltimore Ceasefire. We try to get people together to do something, to have a goal, to move toward it. And I saw that that value in this group of BPM. And it's just when I joined, it was kind of a step to what I was already doing in Baltimore City. So that's me, Darnyle Wharton, father, husband, love of Christ, love of God, love of people, love of Baltimore, because Baltimore raised me. And if Baltimore raised me, who am I not to give back to the city that put me in the positions that I was able to go.
Thank you, Brother Darnyle. That was very, very powerful. I have one quick question before we move into, I know it's not on the agenda, but the book review with Brother Rashad. At your ceasefire, would that be an opportunity, or do you have the opportunity to be able to talk about financial literacy, to talk about legacy building, such as insurance, such as what Brother Reginald does and what Brother Johnny does, to be able to introduce people or let people know the importance of those aspects? The financial literacy, of course, is talking about money, also about legacy building and wealth in our communities. Is that an area that you all come to with the?
Sure. So one of the main things that we talk about is this is a self-determination movement. And if somebody wants to make that a ceasefire event, by all means, because we know that financial literacy and being able to take care of yourself and your family is something that a lot of Baltimoreans would love to know more about. So in a spirit of self-determination, if somebody wants to have a meeting to talk about financial literacy and estate building and wills, of course, we would definitely put that on our calendar and push people toward that, because we know that it's something that's needed in our disenfranchised communities of Baltimore City. And I think he's gone. He may be back.
Yeah, I think his internet went down.
Okay, so transitioning to the next segment
I have a question.
Okay, please unmute yourself and go for it.
How is the frequency determined? Is it by the change of seasons, or how's the frequency determined?
So we decided to do it by quarters, and because at first it was going to be once a year, and after the first ceasefire, we had a Baltimore Ceasefire 365 meeting, and in that meeting, we had a lot of community members that say, "How can we do this more?" And because of the planning that people have, that they have to do for events, we decided, okay, we'll do it once a quarter, and we want to do it the first weekend of each quarter. So we do it in February, we do it in May, we do it in August, and we do it in November. However, in May, we actually do it on the second weekend during Mother's Day weekend, because we want to honor the mothers and fathers of honor them who've lost children to the gun violence or any violence in Baltimore City. So we honor them. So we do it on the second weekend in May.
Absolutely,
You said
absolutely.
February, May. and
Yep, we do it
something-
February, May, August, and November.
Thank you.
Cool,
Definitely
cool.
good work.
Thank
Yeah, Darnyle, don't forget to if you want to put your contact information in the chat there for anyone that
Most
wants to
definitely.
connect with you about Ceasefire. Okay. Next up, we want to bring for those of you that aren't aware or may not be aware, we have a monthly book club, the BPM book club, and those are books that we read and discuss, that we talk about, that deal with different aspects and different topics that we deal with. And I wanted to bring this segment in because I thought it's a great idea for us to be able to make brothers aware, because I think we do need to read more. But Brother Rashad is the head of the BPM book club. And I wanted him to just talk a little bit about the book, the book club and the books that we have coming up, and then the ones that we've kind of had since we started now too. So you there, Brother Rashad?
I am. Good evening, everyone. So thanks, Leroy, for the introduction. BPM has had a book club for the past, I believe, almost 2 years. We're pushing almost 2.5 years now since we started the book club. Our BPM book club we've read a number of different books that both stretch our minds as men, and also cause us to think as business leaders and leaders in our community. That's kind of how we select some of our books. Some are, traditional books, the Think and Grow Rich type books, and there are others, the how not to be an anti-racist, and even some financial books to come to mind, such as I forgot, The Color of Money is one of the ones that come to mind that we've discussed, and also a financial 21-day financial fast, and just trying to get members and anyone who attends the book club to think about, where you are in your life and take inventory, and also planning for the future. So that's kind of how we do our book club. So that's a little bit about the book club. This month's book is hold on, by Jason Jennings. Give me 2 seconds. It's titled Think Big, Act Small, by Jason Jennings. We'll be discussing that on the first Saturday at 10 a.m., which is November 6th, if I'm correct. Yep, it's November 6th. So at 10 a.m. we will have book club, and we meet every first Saturday of the month at 10 a.m. And we encourage brothers to attend, even if you did not read the book, because you'll still learn something and gain great nuggets of information as a dad, man, business owner, whatever walk of life you're in, you'll learn something new. So that's the spill in the book club.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rashad. I really appreciate that. And for those brothers that are looking for a place to be able to come and discuss different books, you're an avid reader. There's some good selections as far as books that go on with the book club, to be able to have some great content. And that is, Rashad, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the first Saturday of each month that that the book club meets?
That is correct, Leroy.
Okay, cool. And you all can go to it should be on that same link tree for BPM. I believe the book club link should be there as well for you to be able to join there. But that's the first Saturday of each month. The book club, the BPM book club meets. So thanks a lot, Rashad, for that. The next topic the next segment that we have is our mastermind. And I'm a part of on Clubhouse that meets every Saturday morning called the E-Mixer Club in Clubhouse. And it's a great place where entrepreneurs meet and we come and we discuss different things and stuff like that. But I happened to connect with a brother in this particular group. And we had a great discussion, and he actually brought a great question that I thought would be appropriate for what we were going to be discussing tonight, because he has a very, very unique business that he deals with legacy building and leaving your, and I'm gonna let him explain it, but then I wanted him to, and I'm glad he was able to join us. I wanted him to ask the same question that he asked there to ask here, but then to also gain more exposure and more knowledge about doing this aspect of leaving your legacy behind. So this is Brother Darian Jackson. Darian, thanks for joining us. If you could just talk a little bit about your business, and then we'll get into that question that you had, okay?
Yeah, no problem at all. So I'm Darian Jackson. What I created is, it's called God and Light. So what we believe in is that death should only be physical and not intellectual. So many times I know in the Black community, we hear, I wish you met your grandmother. I wish you knew your grandfather, so on and so forth. So what this does is we send you out custom prompts weekly that says, what would you say to your daughter on her 18th birthday? What would you say to your child at their wedding day? What baby names would you want for your grandchildren? Truly creating a mental footprint of yourself, and also giving stories of your past. So what was the most troubling day of your life? Creating an intellectual legacy. So sort of kind of how I help people understand it, it's intellectual life insurance, whereas life insurance, you deposit finances into a bank. With intellectual life insurance, you deposit your mind into a database so that you can truly be there for your loved ones after you've passed away. Because yes, money is great. Yes, things are great. But at the end of the day, what you want is that connection. You want their mind, you want their love, you want their guidance to be there for you for future generations. Just a little bit of what I'm doing. But this topic is very interesting to me because, I do plan to partner up and I've been trying to figure out how to get out there, how to explain it, how to attach myself to people in the life insurance world, that it can be added as an add-on to life insurance. Not just being able to secure your finances, but securing your mind. Because what we say is, if you lose your mind, nothing else matters. But if you lose something else, it's your mind that gets it back. So many people will receive this money and these things, and they'll fight over them because they can't have the person that they love. So they want to hold on to these things. But if they can hold their loved one right in the palm of their hand and receive that guidance and that love and those affirmations from them for generations and generations to come, truly creating an intellectual family tree, maybe that physical stuff might not matter as much.
Wow. Now I want you to and I believe we talked a little bit, but you had a question. I don't know if you recall specifically what that question was, but I wanted to use that as the mastermind tonight to be able to talk about, and I know you had mentioned about gaining more exposure, but getting more people's attention on the digital legacy building and everything like that.
Yeah, definitely. So that's really what I've been trying to figure out, is how best to get to these people, because what the problem that I end up finding is because I'm pitching and talking to a community that I'm not currently in. And what I mean by that is, although it's important to me, so I'm a father of two beautiful young children. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and what I've been seeing is when I talk to people my age, they don't get it. they're not relating the two, and they're not understanding like, hey, you should start leaving stuff for your loved ones, and you should want to be able to create this legacy. And it's more than just finances. You get so caught up in the day-to-day trying to make this money that you're missing these moments and being able to give that guidance. So I've been trying to figure out how to reach that community, how to reach the 40 to 60-year-olds, and being able to help them understand that this is new. And although you might be used to life insurance, this is something not only you can use as an addition, but if you don't have finances, everybody has a mind. And so just trying to get exposure in that market and figure out how to reach these people.
Cool. So we'll start it off. We'll start the mastermind off with asking that question about being able to gain access or gain exposure to that particular demographic, and if our entrepreneurs that are here might be able to kind of have any, if you all have any suggestions or ideas of the ways that we're able to do that. Would you all have any suggestions, whether it's Johnny, whether it's Reginald, whether it's Shadid, if y'all want to, Rashad, and Kendrick, if you all can pitch into, or if you all have any ideas of what we might be able to, or how we might be able to kind of do that, and even with our group here, the Black professional men, how that might be relevant to them.
What I would tell you to do as an entrepreneur, the age group you want to go after, which is, you said, between 40 and 60. How do people in that generation typically make their decisions? Well, we typically rely on experts to make our decisions, because I'm in that age group that you're talking about. And so I actually would sit down with somebody that's a financial planner, and I'm going to ask them, the right questions to figure out how to do that. So what I would recommend is you start to interview. So I'm going to start with the word interview. You're going to interview financial planners and people in that space, because you got to find people who see your vision. So you might have 5 financial planners, but only one of them sees your vision. If they see your vision, now they will be a referral source to you. They'll be able to actually connect you to their clients, or they'll refer you to their clients. So you're going to have to interview people. I wish there was an easy way to say, just do X and it would happen. But the real story is, you're going to have to connect with people who hit that customer base. So financial planners, life insurance agents, people that sell any type of insurance. Typically in that 40 to 60 age group, they're typically buying. They typically have the income most of the time to at least make purchases in that area. And they're starting to understand they need experts. So I would be reaching out to the people that services them first, and get used to doing your pitch. And because you have a great idea and it sounds good, to me, just hearing it, if you go practice your pitch over and over, you're going to learn the key words that you say that make somebody lean forward and say, I want to know more. That's what you're looking for now. What do you have to say to get people interested in what you have? And I'm sure if you start to do that, you're going to find people, because I always would walk in the door and say, look, I'm about to have a customer base you're interested in. I want you to know why you should work with me, because you're going after the same people they're going after. And anything that you bring in the door, they should want to help you so that they can see finances down in the future. So that's what I would tell you to start, is looking for companies, anybody that's a financial planner, life insurance, or any type of insurances that people buy. Those are the people you want to talk to, because their client base is your client base.
So that is definitely, so I was looking at strategic partnerships. So what I want to do is I want to be able to have life insurance agents on my platform. I want to be able to reach out to them and be able to also alley-oop to them, because kind of my market and what I pitch towards is people without life insurance, people in those realms, because what I want to do is I'll be able to feed the life insurance agents and the life insurance companies, customers, users as well, being able to receive clients from each other. So, their life insurance clients who already believe in creating an insurance for themselves can also add legacies onto those in their digital and their mental footprint. Whereas my customers who don't have life insurance, because they just be like, okay, I can make a video, or I can leave an audio, or I can leave a message. That's easy. So as they kind of creep into that world in more of a social media way, they're also able to be like, okay, well, what's this life insurance agent talking about? Or what's what's this creating a will talking about, or how do I do that? So I want to have living will attorneys. I also want to have life insurance agents on the platform that they can use in the marketplace to be able to go to and be able to reference. And we kind of feed off of each other. You know, they bring me the customers with life insurance and health insurance and so on and so forth. And have already created wills that also want to create a mental footprint of themselves and leave guidance to the future. At the same time, being able to give them customers who don't have life insurance, who haven't ever created a living will. So I definitely believe in the play off of each other.
All right.
Oh, go ahead. Because I don't want to take up this whole forum.
Yeah. Some ground rules for the mastermind. Otherwise, we will be here until 9:30. Because there's an exchange of so many different ideas, Darian, hold your comments until the end.
I got you, Steve.
So each person unmute, give their advice, and then you can take notes, whatever the case may be, take people's contacts if they give advice and resource. And at the end, you could give your feedback. Otherwise, with this group,
my apologies.
No,
I didn't know that. I didn't know the rule, the lay of the land.
We will be here. Trust me. And we do this every month, and we will be here until 9:30. And so we still have our president's report coming up. So with Hassan joining, so my advice would be, I would say after this, we can just go alphabetical, and Leroy help me out with that so that we get through this. Would be influencer campaign.
I'll go from how I have on the screen real quick.
Okay. Yeah, so Darian, an influencer campaign, as was mentioned with financial advisors and some of the rebuttal that you gave, but as was mentioned, how do 40 and 60-year-olds through 60-year-olds make decisions? And that's through people we know, like, and trust. Good old-fashioned social proof. So what I would recommend is to make a list of 50 people, not 50 regular people, but 50 people in media, television, local influence, so on and so forth. And what you have to do is you have to take them through the transformational car wash, meaning find a percentage of them who will go through the process and either live journal it, share feedback, so on and so forth. Many influencers, they get pitched with these ideas all the time. So they're on the ground floor of many opportunities. So put together your influencer campaign where they provide feedback. I would also say to provide a weekly interview series. StreamYard is perfect for this, where you have people check in on the show and basically give their feedback in terms of how it's going. If you get people who both check in and agree to go through the process and are willing to share it on their social media platforms, perhaps giving them a badge to share on their blog or website, then it creates a amplified signal or footprint to help your movement go. And with that, transition back to Leroy to facilitate this thing.
Sure, absolutely. Brother John, did you have any anything that you wanted to contribute to the mastermind?
I didn't know it was an option. I'm just kidding. Yes, I do. I like that. I really like this idea. It's something that I could get on board with. My recommendation would be, so good job and best of luck with that. I'm definitely interested in knowing more as you proceed forward. Research. And what I mean by that is they mapped the human genome because they found people's interests. They researched and found out what people were interested in, and they were able to get people to volunteer their DNA to the project. That's one example. But research and find out what people, they do all kinds of psychological studies and say, what do you regret about your life? Oh, I regret that I didn't take this trip. I regret this. So find out the things that are going to encourage those, because that middle age group, that 40 to 60, they're starting to think about their younger years, and they're starting to think about their younger years in juxtaposed with their children. And as they get toward the 60s, they're looking at their grandchildren. So research and find out what truly people in those categories, and you have to break it down by demographic, whatever you got to do, but have the research to back up whatever pitch you go forward with.
Love it, love it, love it. Kendrick, I'm gonna come back to you because I'm gonna let you do the president's address as well at the end. But Rashad, did you have anything that you wanted to contribute to the mastermind?
Just wanted to congratulate the brother, as I thought it was a great idea, great business model. I do definitely think that the record keeping and things like that are important, especially coming from myself being an accountant. That's definitely something that we want to remind folks to keep records and definitely share those things within the family. So that's pretty much what I had.
Cool. Appreciate it. Darnyle?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
The church conference. Are you going to share?
No,
I didn't have anything.
Okay, all right, cool. And then Reginald, how about you, brother? I don't know if you had anything.
Just what the vision is and being willing to work.
I don't know if Reginald is there. All right, but I'm gonna come up. Kendrick, I'm gonna leave you with the ending of the mastermind, and then if you can, because I didn't say he came on, but he left out. But if I have you do the president's address as well, along with the couple of board updates, if we can have those two, Shadi and Rashad.
Got it. Real quick, what was the mastermind question?
Well, Brother Darian has a business, and I'm gonna let him give the name of it, but he's looking to find ways to be able to gain exposure for his business to the his business model to the age bracket of 40 to 60, 65 that are out there in regards to leaving a digital footprint. I think that's what you said. Did you, Darren? Leaving a digital footprint.
Yep, my answer would be to join the Greater Baltimore Black Chamber of Commerce. That'd probably be a good resource for you to connect with the 40 to 60.
I don't think he's from Baltimore,
group.
but he could do the chamber in his area, because I think
whatever chamber is in his area. Yeah. The Buy Black conference is actually tomorrow, right now. That's the United States Black Chamber. So if you look up BYBLACK. If you send me an email, I'll forward you my email. I had a discount link that I put out a couple of days ago. I can send it to you if it's still good. I think it was only till Friday. But the Buy Black conference, it's whatever chamber you are associated with in that area, and any other social justice network. Usually people who are around that mission-driven nonprofit space care about impacting our community. So you want to tie yourself to those that have a way to care. And then for the president's report, it was just two quick updates. And that was that we have a food truck nights are coming soon to get our community to eat a lot healthier. And we have an after school program that begins next month. So food truck nights and our after school program, all that will be in our app for any brothers to volunteer or be a part of. So with that, I'm just glad to see my brothers. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate seeing y'all.
Cool.
And that will conclude my report.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Kendrick. Rashad, and then I guess if you want to give us our money report and talk about that, but then also I know you wanted to also mention the dues, and then Shadi, I'll let you finish up with this if you can. I don't know if Rashad is there or not. He might not be available at the moment.
Hey, Leroy, I am here.
Okay.
Just also want to encourage anyone who's not a member of BPM to possibly become a member of BPM. That's also important as well, as BPM being a member has its privileges, and so we would definitely encourage anyone who's not a member to join the organization. I'll put my contact information in the chat so that anyone that's interested can reach out. Thank you.
And Darren, if you can put your contact information in the chat as well too, that'd be great. Okay, that way we can make sure that the brothers can connect with you outside of here. Okay, and then Shadi, we'll close with you.
Okay, so first of all, thank you, those of you who are viewing on the live stream, whether on YouTube or our Facebook profile. and make sure you leave your contact info in the chat for those of you who are on the Zoom, whether LinkedIn or any other contact info that you want to connect. BPM has been around for 30 years. And so this is one of the most powerful networks in the region. There are literally no people that you cannot reach through this network, whether it's Ivy League, whether it's funding sources, whether you're launching your business, whether you're trying to start your marriage or save your marriage. Every topic, every avenue has its relationship points. And so in order to do business with the network, it starts with becoming a member of BPM. But if you have an organization that is public facing, you want to partner with BPM, the organization, we have our operating agreement process. And what this does in my role within BPM is more or less for you Ravens fans out there to serve as a free safety. So to make sure that we have a line of defense to make sure we have accountability for our partnerships and go through the various terms and conditions so that all parties receive what they need, both the organization as well as the entity, whether you're an event host, so on and so forth. So one of the things for those of you who are up and coming, looking to get your ideas out to the world, is that building that audience is the hardest part of that. You may have the talent, the passion, the ability, but finding the venues, building your audience, so on and so forth, is the challenge. And so we have those relationships already built in. So if your product, service, or mission is in alignment with ours, then please reach out. I will put the details in the chat, which is partnerships@bpminc.org. Once again, Shadidi Laser, I serve as the partnership chair for Black professional men. And this has been the monthly general body meeting. If you are an existing member and you want to be featured in the member spotlight, or you want to deliver a feature presentation, then please reach out to Leroy, and please CC me on that email, as we're continuously adding to that lineup each and every month. So on behalf of Leroy, on behalf of BPM Executive Board, thank you for tuning in this month.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate the speakers taking time out of your busy schedules to come and talk with us. Brother Johnny Jones, Reginald Gant, thank you all. Brother Darnyle. We ask that all of their information is in the chat. You can either take a screenshot or save the chat as well to be able to get everybody's information that was able to put their information in there. Use these resources, the knowledge and the information and the resources that they brought to us tonight. I think this is valuable information that they've given to us about getting our affairs in order, leaving a digital footprint, a mental footprint for everyone, having our businesses, business security and business insurance together in place, having our personal insurance, our wills, having all of those things in place so that we can be, as I hear so much, they talk about men being the protectors and the providers. Well, I don't hear anyone talking about this is the avenue, one of the avenues that we as men protect our families, provide for our families by having this aspect of our lives together. And we set the standard. We can set the standard by making sure that we have these aspects and these parts of our lives in place, so that everyone understands the importance of it. And the only way that it's going to get out in our community is if we have conversations like this, if we talk about it. So I'm happy that BPM is taking the charge and being able to talk about these things and putting them forward. So everyone that's listening tonight, everyone that is a part of this that may listen to the replay, please make sure that you talk about these things. Sit down with your family, have these conversations. I know that they're not easy. They may not be easy. They may be difficult to have, but these are conversations that must be had so that if something does happen to any of us, because as all of us have seen over the past 18 months, that anything can happen on any day to any of us, and we have to be prepared for that day. So I appreciate you all joining us tonight for our general body meeting. I thank everyone for who joined us in the virtual room here. Those that are on our social media platforms, we appreciate you. Please, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend, tell a family member, have them have this discussion, to watch it and have that discussion with them. So this is BPM. We will be here next month in November. We thank you all same time, the second Wednesday. We'll be here from 6 to 8 p.m. We thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you all next month. We appreciate you. Have a good evening.
Be well, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
To be successful,
all right.
Here's the thing you have to do. You have to jump. There is no way around it. You have to jump. Every successful person has jumped. You got to jump. You got to take a leap of faith. You got to dash off that cliff, and you got to jump out there as far as you can. Now, a lot of times you stand on the cliff of life and you see other people soaring by, gliding down like a bird flying through the air. You know, they going over to the south of France. You see them on a boat somewhere. You see their family vacationing here, their family vacationing there. You see them dressing like this. You see them in New York, then you see them in London. They flying by. You know why? It's because their parachute open. But the only way to get your parachute to open so you can soar, you got to jump. Now here's the problem. Here's the problem, my friends. When you jump, I can assure you one thing. You listening? I promise you this. Your parachute will not open right away. No, that's the fear part. I promise you your parachute will not open right away. You're gonna hit them sides of them rocks. You're gonna tear your back out on them cliffs. You're gonna cut yourself. You're gonna get wounded. You're gonna get some tears and stuff like that. But eventually, the parachute will open and you'll be soaring. But here's the other caveat. Let me teach you this right here. If you do not jump, I promise you one thing, your parachute will never open. So you're safe, but you'll never soar. You got to jump. I got to go.
Nice.
Okay, logging out.
All right.